what a libertarian is to me is someone that believes in non-aggression, someone that's anti-war.
I'm glad he admits that they totally dropped the ball on advertising this completely unnecessary shot.
I really just wish they would stop targeting children.
That might have been the dumbest 2 minutes of my life ever. Listening to this fucking.
We love you. You're very special.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Audacity of Freedom podcast. I'm Chicken and joined by awkward intro on episode 1. Fuck yeah, let's go, boy.
Let's do it. Yeah, and of course, if you eventually check out the video, you'll see me sticking my finger in my eye as he starts talking. It was perfect. It was perfect. And I'm Brendan, the co-host.
Yes, I do go by Dr. Chicken now because apparently
I like it. It doesn't mean anything. Apparently, you can just yeah.
So if we have Dr. Jill Biden, I'm Dr. Chicken now. So I find it appropriate.
I put PhD in front of my, at the end of my name, but no one would believe it. So
well, I'm working towards that. It's I'm always trying to better myself, right? That's what we do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe next week I'll be a chiropractor,
Fuck yeah, man. Another fake doctor. I love it.
I trust them more than I trust some other people. Whew.
Oh, no shit. We'll get into that for sure. There's some. I know there's one doctor you want to talk about tonight, but
hate him.
But folks, this is episode 1. Just a couple of humble guys that are in love with freedom and love to spread that message, and said, "Fuck it, let's do what nobody else has ever done before." Start a podcast.
Yeah. And then tell everyone they know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you know I have a podcast?
Yeah. Did you know? We'll talk things, all things liberty and freedom, of course, and talk about how maybe that's where we start off, Brandon. Like, what was your journey to your political beliefs and kind of this whole thing we are trying to define, which the title of this episode is "What is a Libertarian?" So I guess that's where we start. Is how did you get to where you are, and what is a libertarian to you, man?
So yeah, this is a I don't know. I guess it's a long, convoluted story, but like most other people, my awakening politically, actually.
Are you woke?
Yeah, so woke. So woke.
All right, fuck it. We're done with this. We're not doing any more episodes. This is it. It's over. We're 9 minutes in.
Well, that's so different. Give my pronouns. That's why you didn't understand how to address me.
Okay.
So my political awakening, her, and I was late. It was like 29, 30 years old, and it was actually out of boredom. I was a border patrol agent, and I was riding around in my truck, and there's nothing going on. I'm all alone in the middle of a desert, and I'm just like, I start like cruising. I had Sirius XM because down south, right? No radio stations. They had like one country. They had a bunch of country stations, and then a bunch of Mexican stations. Like,
got tired about hearing about mama and trucks and dogs.
Yeah. I was just like, I wasn't really in the country at the time, so I was just like, yeah, I got to do something else. So I'm cruising XM, Sirius XM, and I came to Patriot Radio, and I started listening. So Sean Hannity, God, what was his name? Andrew Wilkow, Mike Church, all three of those guys. Although Mike Church I thought was a quack in the beginning. But I started listening to right wing radio, and it kind of clicked with me. So I was like, all right, well, but I don't want to be a one side guy. So I turned on left wing radio, and I was like, well, this is fucking garbage. I was like, I gotta tough through it though. Like I toughed through it. I was listening to it, I was just like, yeah, I'm not a lefty. I'm okay. All right. So I started, really listening to these shows, and that was probably for a couple of years. I was listening to these specific guys, and then mostly Mike Church really got into history, and then small R Republicanism,
Right, yeah.
which was more on the freedom side of things and less on the Republican big party type thing. So that kind of got me started on my way towards that side. And then I remember listening to Hannity one night, and it was just as the bailouts were happening, and he was just completely taking a dump on Chevy for taking all this money. And then he hit a commercial break, and it was a Chevy commercial.
Fucking perfect.
I was like, motherfucker's raking in a whole bunch of money while he's crapping on these people. I'm like, yeah, something's not right here. Something's not right at all. So I kind of just kept working my way over, and then found Tom Woods.
Nice.
He has on just libertarian person after libertarian person. He injects some of his own opinions, but it's mostly just him interviewing libertarians, high professors, all the way to just the kind of normie libertarians. And so I kind of just I hitched my wagon onto that train. And to me, it's just common sense. When you look at things from non-aggression, and you look at things, anti-war, it's just, to me, I don't know how you look at it any other way. I don't, and I don't know. I still don't call myself a libertarian. I have not donated to the party. I hate giving people my money. So like, I have to really like you, or really, you know what I mean? Like,
really trust you.
Yeah, I just can't do it. Like, I almost jumped on the Tea Party train, because that's when I was hitting that awakening, right?
Sure.
And and I'm like, something's not right here. And then of course, like a year later, they got co-opted by the big party. So they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. So sorry, that was a really long.
No, that was perfect. Actually,
I feel like it should be thorough. It took me a long time to get to where I'm at, and plenty of thought, plenty of reading, I've listened to so many friggin' podcasts. I can't even tell you. I've listened to books. So, as far as what a libertarian is to me, is someone that believes in non-aggression, someone that's anti-war. And we can need to have a whole episode on anti-war.
Mm-hmm.
But and then someone just believes in ultimate freedom of an individual, and in a community as well. So most people think that like non-aggression, and then having that liberty as far as an individual goes, like they think that just means it's like one for all. But New Hampshire proves that completely wrong. There's a whole bunch of libertarians moving here, and they have a community. They are they're just grouping together like crazy, and they're using each other for business purposes as well. Like they people are soliciting for carpenters and plumbers, and just all kinds of stuff. So just because they believe in freedom on their own, they still believe in community and helping each other out.
Yeah, that Free State Project is quite amazing. And like when I first heard the idea, I was like, good luck getting people to move to New Hampshire, but shit, they're pulling it off, man.
It's crazy. So I signed up for the Free State Project, but it doesn't cost anything. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
So I signed up. I put my name on the registry, so now I'm a secessionist, and yeah, it's amazing. There's get-togethers all the time. There's move-in parties, like helping people move in, buying them pizza and stuff like that. I haven't been to anything yet. I just signed up. So, but I've been living in New Hampshire a long time, and they're doing really great stuff. They're not just doing great stuff in the community. They're also doing it in the government. They're, nullifying gun laws, federal gun laws here. And they're doing all kinds of great stuff. So, and they're doing it on the call for liberty and freedom, man. So I love those.
Beautiful. It's beautiful, man. Beautiful.
Yep. So how about your origin story? Your awakening? Awakening, you lefty.
So I was a shit lib lefty there for quite some time. I joke about it often, but like straight out of high school, I remember in high school telling my government teacher, it was like the first time I ever seen Obama speak. I was like, there you go. There's your man. He's going to be your first black president. My government teacher, history teacher, he did all the social studies stuff. And he just looked at me. He's like, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. After I graduated, I went and made it a point to go find him. I was like, hey, motherfucker, what did I tell you? But
I want to just address really quick. I think we all like are kind of born lefty, right? Like because it's so easy to look at stuff on their face and be like, yeah, that
sounds good.
That person should be taken care of. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, you're not thinking like, where's that money coming from? I remember saying in grade school that, of course they should tax the rich more. I mean, they have plenty of it. And we need it. Like,
give your fair share.
Yeah. That was a grade school, but yeah,
it's the small mind of a child that believes in all that. It's quite funny. But no, so and I'm the youngest of 7 brothers and a sister. And my entire life, so my parents had split pretty when I was pretty much born. So like I was raised by whole fuck ton of different personalities. So I'm a mishmash of so much, and my mom worked her ass off. So like I grew up knowing like
what do you mean?
Yeah, I know, right? I grew up, with brothers and my sister, like trying to teach me the ways of the world, but watching my mom being a single mom, raising all these kids, getting us all through high school, trying to keep us all out of jail because we're all a bunch of heathens, and and like seeing how hard she had to work to do that. And then, skip forward past graduation, and, I'm big team Obama. I'm all about it. And after the first term, and I think I was always kind of politically minded and paying attention. And I was one of the shit libs, like I said, and I never listened to anybody other side. I just argued mine. I never once took anything anybody said into consideration and just argued my point and how right I was. So doing that through Obama's first term, and then when he gets reelected, or heading into that election, I was like, dude, this guy's a fucking joke. Everything he said, he lied about it was like I was politically heartbroken. Like, this is the first guy I was ever all in on, and I was like, I was still so young too. I'd only seen, this is, I'd only been able to vote one time at this point, or twice, I can't remember, but so, Obama gets reelected, and the whole time I'm just like, fuck this guy. And I didn't want to go to the GOP side. Like, because like my image of GOP, and for those that don't know, I'm sure someday we'll have him on here. A buddy of mine called Phil, Phil KOE, as he likes to call himself. He was like my arch nemesis in high school, because he's the hardcore Republican. I was the hardcore lefty, and we fought like crazy. And we were both best friends with Tony, another buddy of mine. And so it was funny because it still plays out today, to where we both call Tony the normie. And Phil's still when you do the political compass test, he is as far right on that scale as you can get. Like, and he was mad that he wasn't off the scale. Like when he took the test, like that's how fucking like that's how entrenched in the GOP he is. But that said, going through seeing it happen and go through real time. And then I got a kid of my own. I get married. My kid gets sick. And, I'm going through those, early 20s things when you're like, shit, I have to pay for my own car insurance and all this other shit. And it gets expensive real fast. This is bullshit. And like, I still had this whole like lefty ideal of like, how in the fuck are you expecting a 19-year-old kid to pay fucking $250 a month for liability car insurance? That's a fucking joke. And the minimum wage at the time was $5.15, but like, you can't even do that. Like, I'm going to pay more on car insurance than I do rent at this point. What the, like, so like those struggles you go through in your early 20s when you start having to, you're like, fuck, how am I going to make this work? Again, get married, have a kid, kid gets sick, and like bills start piling up, and like you start struggling, then you have to start making some fucking, okay, like nose to the grindstone. Like I gotta make this fucking work. And I cut out politics probably for a good 3 years of my life and just focused on making sure my kid was good. It's not that I didn't pay attention, but like it was one of those where I just thought deeply instead of looking for opinions and working through them.
For a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I started leaning more towards the libertarian side of things. And like one, I like, I have nothing against religion, but I think that's the number one turnoff for the GOP with me is how secular and crazy it can get, and how it's like dogmatic in a way of how fucking you have to be on these certain, it's like it's tribal, it's so weird and so gross, and they're no different than the left. It's just the opposite answer, and they all just beat that same drum. It's so creepy
to them. It's all just words to them. They don't actually believe that.
Oh yeah, it's like that on both sides.
Like you could tell when someone believes what they're saying. I mean, Nancy Pelosi calls herself a Catholic, but she wants people to have abortions. So, they just say it to say it. Yeah.
It's so yeah, I get through kind of like that journey, and then I honestly I still wasn't paying attention through 2016. I was just kind of like I was just working hard and trying to make some money and build a life, and I was paying attention through the whole Donald Trump thing. I was like, oh God, why even pay attention right now? That was literally my attitude through the whole 2016 election was like, why would anybody want to argue this right now? Like there's no way Donald Trump's going to win this. And I remember waking up the day after and I went, that motherfucker won. Holy shit. So then I started paying attention again, and I was like, time to get back into this shit because it's about to get wild. So I miss so much of the pre-2016 stuff because I just brushed it off. I go, well, if he doesn't win, who's gonna give a shit? Like that's not gonna be in the history books. Oh, now it is.
Now, yeah.
So I called that one wrong. Jesus Christ. But no, there was in since then, it's I see all those around me, with good intentions and the right things in place. And, I've never tried to shove libertarianism down anybody's throat, but I love to just throw those kind of thought experiments and ideas at them when they say something I just find is so fucking cringe. But then I go, I said that 10 years ago. All right. Like it's not cringe that somebody would think that, but it's like, let me help you out here, bud. Like here's your logical outcome of what you just said. Here's what it always boils down to. And especially like any left libertarians, sorry, I'm going to ostracize you right now. That's a ideology that has no logical ending that has anything to do with libertarianism. You can't be a left libertarian and actually have a good outcome. It all leads to socialism, communism, some form of government, and like that. It's an antonym to libertarian. So anytime I hear somebody go, "Oh, I'm a left libertarian," I'll be like, "Oh no, you're not. You just don't know what libertarians are." Like,
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess libertarian to me, a lot of the same things. It's all about, freedom, personal choices, stay the fuck out of my business. Let me do my stuff. There's still things today that I struggle with, and I might agree with some critiques every now and then of libertarianism. I was this close to being an ANCAP, and I'm still right on the edge, but I've seen what absolutely no regulation on corporations does. It turns into fascism. The only real fascism you have today is coming from corporate entities working with the government, and that scares me more
because it's crony and they're getting help. Yeah. I mean,
corporatism is fascism, and that's what we're seeing. So that's the only time where I'm like, man, like as much as I hate government, Somebody's got to be able to stop it, because as much as you want to do, and maybe that's where we go into next, is it's all about the free market, which I think fixes 99% of problems. I agree. But I don't know how you fix Google. I don't know. Like, there's some of these things that.
Well, you said it. You pinpointed it right there. They all have the help of the government.
And if so maybe that is the answer then.
That is
if the government's not there and the free market is running it,
and then Google can't corner the market, and then Twitter can't just ban people because I'm sorry, people are getting banned off Twitter because the government tells them to. Well, that's not going to happen, because So yeah, you take government out of the equation, and then they no longer have that ability to crush competition.
Prop up their friends.
Yeah, and Amazon is doing the same thing. And actually Tesla too. So
can we start the idea, because like every time you're like,
I have one question for you. One question
be like,
before we like get off the original.
No. This is right with it. This is right with it. You know how they say, like, real socialism's never been tried? We can say, well, real free markets have never been tried.
That's true. Yeah.
And we would be correct. They wouldn't be, but
I mean, there was close to a free market probably in like colonial times, but that was probably more close to a free market than anything. And they did pretty damn good until they were getting taxed. Can you imagine that back then?
Spoiler alert.
How much we're getting taxed now? They'd be like, well, why aren't you throwing the chicken in the harbor? So yeah, I want to know how you skipped. Like, what was the aha moment that you got to libertarianism, almost anarchism? What's that?
Ron Paul is where it started.
Yeah.
So Ron Paul revolution, I was, Occupy Wall Street, all through that time frame. That's what really triggered a lot of thought processes of because I was all anti-left, but I was like, but the right, like the we are the 99% shit. Like, they were kind of right on some of that shit. Like, they had a right to be upset, and the GOP wasn't there to help it, and the left wasn't there to help it. And I was like, the only logical way to go through this is you have to, like, libertarian ideas of like, hey, yeah, this ain't cool, man. Like, and none of those people had a voice. And then you saw it get kind of taken over by this identitarianism, like, not as bad as it is today, but that's what stopped that whole movement. Was it got taken over with these like left ideologies of, they started getting racist in there. I don't know if you know the history of the Occupy Wall Street, but like, they were like segregating themselves and turning it into like this weird like class system. And they created exactly what they're fighting.
They were doing hand gestures to upvote and downvote, like speeches and stuff like that. I forget what they called it, but they were like twinkling or something, like, I forget what it was, but yeah, it was ridiculous. It was hand gestures to.
So that taught me that even people with the best of intentions will. Ultimately, left libertarian, that's what most of that was, logically comes out to no good outcome, and you just become the monster that you're trying to destroy. And so I was like, I got to stay away from that. Ron Paul's like, the answers are there. Let's end the Fed. That was one of the first libertarian books I read. I went and grabbed that sumbitch as soon as I could find it. And that was one of the only books I have physically went finger line by line and tried to read that thick ass fucking small print book. But yeah, Ron Paul was my aha. And the fact that he was still Republican didn't really throw me off, because I was like, oh, he's not like any of them. He's not like any of these guys. I got pissed at Rand Paul when he didn't support his dad, and things like that. I was like, oh, God damn it, what are we doing here? But no, that was my aha. Totally was the Ron Paul revolution. I watched a lot of those speeches. YouTube was kind of a new thing back then. It was, I've always been a techie dork, so I was always on top of that shit. So I was watching all that shit live whenever I could.
Nice. Yeah, that Ron Paul is great. He's an awful orator. Like he just
Yeah.
he's just like you hear his speech and like but his points are spot on. I'll never forget the time he was booed when he espoused the golden rule. I was people were like booing him. He was like, well, what would happen if a country did that to us? Like,
right.
Wouldn't be acceptable, and they started booing him. I was just like, "Oh my god, this place!"
Wait, what I always loved is like Ron Paul would say shit in the 90s, early 2000s, and everybody would ridicule him. And then 10 years later, they take that idea like it was their own. Like when he, like you were just talking about, like, why do you think they're all mad at us in the Middle East? What have we been doing to them? And right after 9/11, you couldn't say shit like that. And he was like, guys, what the fuck do you think? Why do you think they're doing this to us? Like, we have to pay attention to this. We have to own up to some of this and realize, it was a bad thing. We might have caused some of this. Like, it's not a crazy thought. They all fucking flipped out. And then all of a sudden Obama gets elected. It's 9 years later and everybody's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have been meddling in the Middle East. We'll be like, fuck you. We're still there, you fuck.
Well, another prominent libertarian, actually a president run. He made a president run. Harry Brown, presidential run. God, can't think tonight. And he actually sent a letter out on September 12th, 2001. And it was like, this is called blowback, people.
Yeah,
you reap what you sow. He's a savage, man. He's passed away, but he was a savage. He was just like,
I don't give up.
Yeah, he's like, this is what happens. So yeah, Ron Paul is great. I still listen to his Liberty Report every now and then. He's unbelievable, and oh man, he's a president we should have had for sure.
Yeah.
So
for sure, that was one of the ones where that was another one where you get to see the system being rigged. They all want to talk about 2016, 2020 rigging election bullshit. No, like when you keep out the guy that's filling up arenas in political speeches.
Yep.
And you're keeping him out of a debate.
He was number 2 in the straw poll, and they wouldn't even put his name on the screen.
It was fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Imagine the world today if they would have just let him come into some of those debates. Maybe you wouldn't have won. But God damn it, we'd have a few smarter people in this goddamn country right now.
God, he's changed so many people. It's just we can't. He's changed so many people's minds, and for some reason, we can't get many of those people actually in the government.
Yeah,
it's just really hard to like. Oh yeah, they're freedom thinking. Yeah, we don't really want those people.
yeah. I guess I didn't finish my journey though. When I moved to Iowa during COVID. Which I guess it's a good segue to get us into some COVID conversation here. But like my job was like, hey, you don't exist anymore. Go find a different fucking spot. So I had to move to Des Moines, Iowa, just kind of out of nowhere. So we moved down there, get a house, and I start working down there, and I'll give a shout out to the boys in Iowa in the Libertarian Party there. Like, they ain't messing around. It was a small group of us to start with, and then it turned into, the convention that we had there in Des Moines. Shit, I'm trying to remember who all showed up. And this is the Mises boys. We had you think Iowa, it's not a very big state, but fuck, man, we took over with like damn near unanimous votes on everything. It was crazy just to be a part of it. So I got to be a delegate for the state of Iowa. I didn't get to go to Reno because I had some work shit come up, so I had to let somebody else go for me. So I am a registered libertarian, and was a delegate. Now here in South Dakota, since I moved up here, like South Dakota's so red that the libertarians are afraid. That's the only thing I can think of, because like I don't know if they don't think they have a chance for a vote, but our Facebook page is like 26 people. Like, it's fucking sad.
Yeah.
Now, granted, South Dakota's less than 1 million people, but 26, fuck you, bro. Like,
just not a priority. Like, they're like, you're gonna get Republicans, and they're gonna be like. Well, I guess that's one thing. Like, Democrats, they don't. I don't share anything with Democrats. We used to be anti-war. Like, I used to share with them, right? Like, but then Republicans, at least you can like, I feel like they don't want me dead.
Sometimes they're anti-pharmaceutical. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Depends on which drug. If it's something Joe Rogan's pushing, they hate it.
Yeah, unless there's science on it. But but yeah, you don't like. I think that they just don't like. There is a portion of the party that doesn't want to mess with that strong. Like, it's just not worth it for them to mess with that stronghold. It's just not worth it. So
yeah, in South Dakota, it like I said, it is super red. You know, in post COVID, Kristi Noem did just as good of a job as most governors did. You know, I throw some shade at her, like they did a direct vote bill here to legalize marijuana. She blocked it on the recreational side. She allowed the medical to go through and didn't try to fight that one. And then she had it go up for another vote. It got voted down in this last election by like 20,000 votes. I was like, son of a bitch. It was so close. And of course, it's on a midterm vote. So like there's not as many people actually voting. So like if they hopefully they bring it back on the ballot again in the next round. But in a midterm, you're not going to get that many people to vote on this. You'll get your farmers. Your farmers will go out and vote.
oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cash crop right there.
Yeah.
You know, that's funny. That's one thing that New Hampshire is kind of screwed up on. Like, they still have not legalized marijuana. I mean, there's medical, but the Massachusetts, of all places, has legalized it for recreation, and New Hampshire still hasn't. Like, that was a prediction I got wrong. I was like, we're going to get it before Massachusetts. No. Nope.
You'll get it before Nebraska.
Yeah. They passed it and sent it to the governor, and the governor wouldn't sign it because of the opioid epidemic. But little did he know. I mean, I guess he didn't know that marijuana is not an opiate. I don't know,
because they're totally related. Yeah,
totally. So,
yeah, and I guess the last couple of years, you know, through COVID, I think that's made the hugest spark with the big L. Honestly, it kicked off, you know, the Mises Caucus coming in and kicking out all the old people that weren't doing shit for the last 2 decades, cleaning house and taking over. Like, man, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. Angela McArdle running being the chair right now. She's fucking awesome.
She is so great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people running things right now. And honestly, I was afraid. I was honestly afraid a little bit that somebody was going to fuck things up and make some bad headlines. But so far, it's been pretty good. Like,
well, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire has rubbed a few people the wrong way.
On Twitter doesn't count.
Yeah. Some of
those are funny though.
They made international news apparently. So,
which tweet?
The Megan McCain crying over her father's casket. I
don't fucking care who you are. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, they had a happy death day for John McCain, so the war hawk. So yeah, a lot of people didn't like that, and I see their point. I don't agree with it, but I see their point. And I think the most valid point they had with that was a tweet. It was kind of mean. It wasn't directed at Megan, although he's as much an asshole as her father, but it wasn't really directed at her. It was directed at her father, but she was in the picture. So, but they said, you know, like, if you have anyone really on the edge of becoming a libertarian or really thinking our way, that could turn them off. So,
yeah, but those would also be the people that would probably leave eventually anyway, because they weren't all in. So
agreed. Yeah. So and then New Hampshire's had a few other ones that have gotten, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they were a little spicy. So, but yeah, I think the New Hampshire guys are pretty awesome right now. So I probably will join New Hampshire at least. And but yeah,
we need to figure out who's running their Twitter and try to chat with them. That'd be great.
I think I know who it is.
Nice.
So I think one of them. I think he's been saying it on his podcast. So I was
okay.
Reed Coverdale.
Oh, Reed. No shit. Reed. Yeah. Okay.
He moved back to New Hampshire. So
Nice.
he was the one. He was saying that he says we were doing it. So I think there's multiple people that are running.
Probably the guys that run the tower.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the tower gang or whatever.
That shit's funny to watch. You ever watch their podcast?
Oh, I haven't. I've listened to Clint Russell and which I really like. He's good on the like financial stuff, and Reed's pretty good too. So
the tower gang, it's kind of kind of a no holds barred. Sometimes, some of them are drinking, but it like they literally do not give a shit about anything they say on there, and they say some fucking awful shit on there. It gets pretty bad, but it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to listen to. See a bunch of people. Most people that said half of the shit that they say on there would be canceled forever. You'd never see them again.
That's awesome.
I'm not even sure if they're still on YouTube or not. I haven't seen anything from them in a while, but yeah, I used to watch that shit all the time. But then they all started getting kicked off Twitter and having to change their names. Like you had Fat Dave Smith. Is one of the guys on there. I almost had him talked into jumping on a different podcast in the past, and then he lost his Twitter account. So we lost touch after that, and I haven't. I know we got a new one. I don't know what it is now, but I don't know. Maybe Elon brought him back on his old one.
Yeah, he was talking. Well, Elon talking about amnesty for all the canceled accounts.
Yeah, well, it's kind of amnesty I'm okay with. At least that one's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. I haven't. I listened to them on they were on Part of the Problem on when Part of the Problem does their podcast from like afar, and they have live shows with guys, and I think those guys were on a show with them, or maybe it was just Robbie, but so that's Part of the Problem. Very good podcast if you like to listen to it.
Yeah. Part of the Problem's good shit.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad.
Not bad at all. And Michael Malice.
Yes.
One of my favorite guys alive today.
I actually like his podcast is good. You're Welcome with Michael Malice. But I think it's so much better when he's on another podcast.
Oh yeah, because he's not trying to
he's not like unless Dave Smith's on there or someone else that he's really friendly with, then he's usually does a really good podcast. I mean his podcasts are good anyway, but it's
I know most people can't stand watching like a Lex Friedman, but every time Michael Malice is on there, one, it's fucking super educational. Like you get to find out how smart fucking Michael Malice really is, and how, that dude knows what the fuck he's talking about. And then you get to see like the emotional side of him, and you get to and it's funny as shit. Like that one where they dressed up like each other. They were in opposite tuxedos, like shit like that. But where he dressed up as a Russian officer.
when he does a Lex Friedman his imitation. Welcome to the Lex Friedman podcast. He's just like,
he did his own intro. His
own intro.
It's fucking great.
Yeah,
that guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
Need more Michael Malices in the world, and his Twitter profiles.
I was gonna say he's probably one of, if not the best, he's one of the best Twitter follows.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I remember, no matter what you think of January 6th, it was still the funniest tweet ever that I ever screenshotted. It was on January 6th, and he was live streaming and didn't even know what the fuck was going on. He's like, "Oh shit, that's happening? They're doing what?" And then all of a sudden he tweets out in little musical notes, it says, "This is what democracy looks like." I fucking lost it. It was perfect. I'm pretty sure a fan sent that into him on his live stream, and then he just retweeted it. But God, it was perfect. It was the perfect tweet at the perfect moment, because that was right when they were starting to break into everything. Yeah, that's his musical tweet.
It's awesome.
After we heard frying pans going down fucking Yeah, residential streets and fucking towns across America getting banged. This is what democracy looks like. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just like 9/11 getting a letter on 9/12.
Yeah.
Like, shit comes back.
Comes back real quick.
Oh. So those were the cool people. We got a couple people we need to shit on. Do you want to go first, or should I throw mine out there?
Yeah, I'll do mine first. Mine's the obvious. So, Dr. Fauci is the science is back on the talk shows, and he's asking, he's encouraging more money because apparently they did not market the vaccines well enough. So because only 15% of eligible people are actually getting their booster.
So it's not the vaccine, it's the booster they didn't advertise. Like, did you know you could get a booster, Brandon?
I cannot, because I am not fully vaxxed. So you can't get a booster unless you're fully vaxxed. So that was the other thing. So they said that only 68% of people are fully vaccinated, but that doesn't mean boosted. So it drops off as it goes down, right? So it's only 15% of people that actually got the other boosters.
Yeah.
So there's very few people that have done it. So
I'm glad he admits that they totally dropped the ball on advertising this completely unnecessary shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe and effective. I mean, did you not hear that like every day, every hour?
Was it necessary?
And there's still, definitely not. But then it's still like it's all over the radio still. Get your shot. And I just saw a commercial for it on the freaking TV. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what he's talking about. But apparently he says that people are still dying from COVID, so they need to keep this is it's just. I mean, maybe someone should explain to a doctor that people just die from shit. It happens. It happens.
Sure. There's a lot of things that are safe and effective.
Yeah,
that you don't need.
Those vaccines weren't one of them, but yeah,
maybe they should have figured out why you need it. Like that was probably one of the most fascinating things. Was it who's the girl? Who's the girl doctor for Trump with Fauci? Burks?
I cannot remember her name.
I think it was Burks or something like that. Yeah. Well, she come out and said, "Oh yeah, we knew this wasn't going to stop transmission. We knew from day one this wasn't going to stop transmission." What? What the fuck?
But they said it the whole time. They said that, even Fauci came out and said this is going to stop. It will stop with you. Maddow, how many people espouse this bullshit? So,
but it was his advertising. Totally. Advertising's why people didn't get it. It had nothing to do with him lying through his fucking teeth this whole goddamn time and selling you a fucking, maybe if you don't sell the lie. So
what's really awesome is the fact that they canceled all the dissenting voices, and they kicked them off social media. They got them fired, and people still don't trust you. You were literally the only thing that they were hearing, pretty much. And if they listen to mainstream anyway, and this still wasn't enough. It still was not enough. So I guess there's a little bit of hope. I really just wish they would. I honestly, I'm like everyone, I'm sick of COVID. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of the vaccines. I'm sick of hearing commercials about it. And I really wish they would stop. But most of all, I wish they would stop targeting children, because
that's the scariest.
Because it's gross. It's gross. It's literally the child death rate for under 9 is 0.0016%.
Yeah, so I was reading one where you got a kid has a better chance of being struck by lightning twice than dying of COVID, which I was like, oh.
I've been listening to Dr. Drew a lot lately, and he was all aboard the vaccine train when it first came out and all that stuff. And well, let me tell you, he seeks knowledge. That man is, I gotta give credit where credit is due. He seeks knowledge. He seeks people that have knowledge. He's he's changed his tune quite a bit. Not completely, but quite a bit. And so there's a lot of info, and it's not looking good for those things. But honestly, because the government is the way it is, I'm not sure. I don't think anything's going to change. But like I said before, I really just wish they would stop targeting children. You're an adult, make your own decision. This is kind of the, you do you thing, the libertarian, you do you thing. I don't care what you do. If you want to suck on vials of that stuff, then do it. But, like there's so much
Don't tell me what to do
now. Yeah. The kids absolutely don't need this. I mean, 0.0016% of a death rate. That's statistically zero. Statistically zero. So the idea,
I'll go beyond that. I'll just say it's fucking zero.
Yeah, well, most people will, but I mean, nothing's absolute, right? So like, it's one of those things that it drives me up a wall, and that's 9 and under. It goes up a little bit when you throw 18 years old, and then it goes up a hair more when you throw 30 years old and below. But guess what? As long as you're healthy, you don't have comorbidities, you're gonna be fine. They scared the shit out of you instead. So I don't know. We're targeting kids. That's all.
The kid thing is very disturbing, and the fact that everybody knows that it's like everybody knows what you're saying. Like for the most part, I know that there's still people out there that are like full gung ho and kind of weird and believe everything they hear. But a good chunk of the public goes, no, I'm not worried about it with my kid. Like, and they're still trying. Like it's almost, to me, it almost feels like there's some kind of evil behind it of like, why? Yeah. We all, like, people that know, like, why are you doing this? Like,
the $100 billion that they made last year wasn't enough.
It's like, hey, Brendan, I know you don't have cancer, but can we start chemo? You good with that? You good with that?
Yeah, we'll just go ahead.
It's gonna totally fuck up your whole body.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose all your hair, and there might be other medical complications.
You might die.
I know you don't have cancer, and you're not gonna die from it. But I want to put you on chemo right now because the science said
cancer. Because you could get it. You could get it.
Yeah, possibly. I just want to get ahead of this.
Yeah. So he's my shithead of the week. I can't stand that guy. I think he if you ever get a chance to either watch the documentary or read the book, The Real Anthony Fauci, it's an eye-opener. If even a quarter of what he says is true, that guy is a living evil piece of shit and deserves to die a slow, painful death. That I'm not encouraging anyone to do it. I'm just saying he deserves it.
In a video game.
Yes,
absolutely. My piece of shit this week is a guy named John Doyle. Now, I really didn't know who this guy was. So he was born in 99. So he's pretty young dude.
Yeah.
But I happened to catch a clip of his on YouTube. He was on Timcast, the one he does every night, and usually it's a pretty decent show, and he usually has some pretty good guests on there. But this guy calls himself a paleo conservative. He's an internet personality, political commentator. He has a YouTube series. It's called Heck Off Commie.
Okay.
That sounds like heck off. That should tell you about his personality.
Is that like a Midwestern term or something?
I don't. Who says heck anymore?
I don't know.
Like kids.
Well, kids
when they don't want to get in trouble with their parents, they say heck.
I do in front of my children because but heck off though. Like that doesn't make sense. It sounds Canadian almost.
Yeah, I totally want to subscribe to that.
All right.
Let's see. He's opposed to atheism, Satanism, Marxism, homosexual agenda, of course, gender transitioning, transgenderism, Black Lives Matter, pedophilia, communism. So like some good things, some bad things. Let's see.
I'm glad you have to announce that you're against pedophilia. like
yeah,
just not an automatic.
I've heard somebody say that he's called himself a white nationalist. I don't see this on this page, but whatever. Really don't care. white nationalist means nothing today, as it's been overused and overbooked as a term. I will say this guy's a fucking douchebag. And mainly my biggest criticisms of him. So he's like a hardcore right Republican from what I can understand. And basically his whole time on Timcast, he wanted to tell you that what the left is trying to force you to do is wrong. Instead, you should be forced to do what he wants you to do. That's all I got from the whole conversation. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe the left is going to make you do this, this, and this. If I were the king, I would tell you, you have to do this, this, and this, and you're going to be way better off. I'm like, holy fuck, you're just the other side of the same coin, bitch. Like,
Oh my God.
I do have a clip here because he did spend some time making criticisms of libertarians in general. And I think this is the correct clip, but it made zero sense to me. Maybe listening to it with a fellow like-minded individual, maybe you'll pick up on something that I missed, or we can just shit on this guy.
Incentivize more of it in your life.
And I think that's kind of the problem with the libertarian ethos. It sort of assumes the perfectibility of the individual. It gives them almost this opportunity to like, hey, you can exist and you can be trusted with freedom. And that may have been the case in, the 1700s, but now this society, I mean, the founding fathers said that our Constitution was written for a moral and religious people. It would be wholly inadequate for any other group of people. Now the average American in this country is like this overweight, porn addicted, like drug user. And we expect this guy to be trusted with freedom.
That was brutal.
And
Okay, I got to pause already. One, okay, there obvious conversations will separate. I think he's cherry picking thoughts from which founding fathers he wants to be quoting and listening to at this point, because the separation of church and state has obviously been a thing for a long time. And then this like overgeneralization of what he thinks Americans are tells you that this guy, you see how he dresses and how he's talking about this. He loves what he's selling, man. He really thinks he's fucking top shit.
Oh yeah, he definitely. I mean, in certain realms of things, he's not completely wrong, but like any society,
If
really
I want to be addicted to
unmoral people,
right.
Like if you're gonna have a good society, that depends on moral people. So I mean, with that I agree, not necessarily religious, but definitely moral.
Yeah, but if I want to be addicted to drugs, eating Cheetos, and being fat on my couch watching porn, fuck you.
Well, yeah, of course.
So all right, we'll continue on.
And that's all. Yeah, that's my dose.
You coming over? No.
I said you do you.
Oh yeah, sorry. All right, let's listen to some more of this guy.
It's true. And so you're seeing this all happen, and the libertarians think that like any state power is bad. I would offer the distinction that we like to use with like gun rights, for example. What's the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun? A good guy with a gun. You can vote libertarian. You can say, hey, you should delete the power you have. And they're just gonna be like, okay, you're non-threatening. That's why no libertarian, unless they want to call for a revolution, which they really like to do, they like to fantasize about these, big mass conflict scenarios. They never get banned from social media because they're saying,
who I don't know any libertarian that's calling for it. Like that's the whole point of libertarianism is non-aggression.
Exactly.
No one's calling for violence. That's just a lie. That's an outright lie.
That's what his MAGA Republicans are calling for. Like that's his side calling for that shit.
Yeah.
Is fundamentally not threatening because they're just saying, hey, state, go away. And then you've got people like Trump, people who are more authentically right-wing, saying, actually, I want to.
Trump is not an authentic right-winger. Fuck. This guy doesn't even know what a right-winger is, let alone a libertarian.
No, those Trump followers that are authentic. It's just
got it.
Infiltrate the state, kick out the communists, make it illegal for them to occupy power, and then make the country great again. That's threatening, and that's why those people, myself included, get banned.
So he wants to ban communists from running. Does he understand what he's saying? He's invoking the forefathers of this country in the democratic process of our republic and voting in your representatives. He wants to go, I don't care if you have a little communist commune and you vote in a communist to represent you in your government. I'm banning them. Like, that is so... I hate commies. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? If there's like 1,000 commies that live in a town and they vote in somebody to represent them in their state fucking legislature, okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear your ideas.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this is about. And he's like, oh, fuck that. If people don't like what I like, you're out, bitch. You're like, what the fuck kind of crazy? Like, people listen to this guy. People follow this guy. That might have been the dumbest 2 minutes of my life ever. Listening to this fucking guy.
I can't get it back. Yeah.
He had a lot of criticisms on that whole, it was like a 2-hour long show. And this one, it didn't trigger me, but I was like, the fuck is he talking about? So I went back and listened to the whole thing. It was garbage. This guy's a fucking idiot.
Well, I mean, it's just like any other right winger. They think they can actually fix government, and as long as you just do what they tell what they're telling you, you just have to do it, and that'll fix. But that's never what happens, right? I mean, just look at the history in the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, just in that history alone. I mean, has government really solved any problems at all? No. They're not in the business of solving problems, and it doesn't matter if it's a Republican, a commie, or a Democrat. They don't do anything.
You know who could fix the problems? The government.
Yeah.
And then when they create more problems, they can fix those problems. And it says, no,
they're in the business of making problems, because then they're necessary, because that they have to fix these problems, and they never fix them, and they're still necessary.
Absolutely. There's not only people like him, this guy's just a fucking idiot. I don't even know where the hell they got this guy from, but that's the type of douchebag that you probably meet in a bar sometime, and you're just like, oh my God, this fucking pretentious little cunt. I don't want nothing to do with this guy. But then you have other mainstream conservative voices that before the show started, we talked, Steven Crowder. He's been shitting on libertarians lately.
Yeah, he said that he called himself a libertarian, and then I forget what he said happened, and then he can't do it anymore. And they're just to his credit, the party was quite fragmented for a long time, and it's gotten a lot better in the last year. But the stuff that he was espousing is exactly what I would say the majority, even then, majority of libertarians actually believe it. But then he was also what most people do, was what this guy did, right? He said that libertarians were calling for revolt, which they don't do.
No.
And then Steven Crowder was actually,
unless they're a Fed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good side. So yeah, the Steven Crowder was saying something to the effect, but libertarians, listen, if there's aggression involved, then no libertarian is calling for it unless you punch them in the face, and then they're coming after you. Okay, right. That's it. But other than that, there's no aggression, and then the individual rights is huge. So people put words in the mouths of libertarians constantly, and it just and that's when they're like, oh, I can't agree with him on this. It's just a silly argument.
What I tend to find is, and this guy even did it. They kind of do this weird projection of the things that they're afraid of. And then they try to go, well, it's the libertarians that do it. So he was talking, the calls to violence.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, most libertarians are going to go, yeah, that's not happening. This guy's saying that it's happening. Well, it's actually his team. So he's doing a projection, and what I tend to find the biggest beef, because I think libertarianism to extend, it doesn't have to be necessarily a right wing esque feel all the time, but there's more things you have to pull from that conservative base for libertarianism to work in the long run. That's the smaller government pieces. Now, the things that I feel they're afraid of, and I think this is true when it comes to like a Steven Crowder, this stupid John Doyle dude. Most people that I ever hear criticizing libertarians, one, either they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, which that usually comes to ring true, or they're doing some kind of weird projection like this, or they're just afraid of like their principles and values actually being challenged, and things that they probably haven't challenged themselves with, whether that be, and it's usually the super religious ones that you get the most out of with this.
Yeah.
Because they haven't really thought about it. They have not spent the time. Now, I'm not shitting on religion anyway. My wife's super religious. I got my own beliefs and whatnot. Like, so shit, a lot of libertarians are atheists, whatever. You be you, boo. I don't care. But like, it's the hardcore fucking religious right that have the biggest problems. Am I wrong on that? Because that's typically what I see is the
I agree, and I agree. I think a lot of people are comfortable where they're at, right? So if you start espousing something that's foreign to them, it's really hard to wrap your head around it.
Well, if you're a political commentator, though, you got to be able to do that. You got to have heard these arguments. You got to be able to go, okay,
yeah.
If I'm going to shit on a whole group of people, one, you like, I don't know, maybe do your homework first.
Yeah.
Like,
especially if you used to call yourself one too.
Yeah.
You should actually know what they stand for.
Or maybe it's they find it to be a threat now. That could be it too. Like, because I did think about that. If libertarians, like, in the state of Iowa, we got over 3% of the vote for governor. So now they're a major party again. Now they can fundraise. Yeah. Like, you start seeing this little uprising because, whether it be the Trump Hillary effect or the Trump Biden effect that we just had, like, you're starting to see people going, fuck all of these. Fuck no. Like, maybe they're not even libertarians. They're just going, fuck it. Like, let's go with this guy. Like, let's just do something different. I'm going to throw my money somewhere else or throw my vote at somebody that isn't going to fuck things up because these guys keep, like, you're starting to see that resurgence that we saw back in around the Ron Paul times. So maybe it's a threat. And I think that might be where Steven Crowder's more coming from of, like, his mindset's probably more of, I just don't want the left. And it's easier to just narrow focus on this one target and not get distracted with this third party thing going on. Because that's usually what hardcore Republican GOPers are going to do. They're going to be like, oh, just ignore them. They don't matter. Oh, they're just silly. Like,
yeah, it's been so long since I heard the clip with Steven. I wish we should have listened to it before the show. I remember him simply saying stuff that just wasn't true. Libertarians were not, which is fine. It's just like, okay, you don't want to call yourself a libertarian anymore. I get it. But then you don't have to go on a rampage and like shitting on them and not even for good reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, but again, this Doyle dude, that's what I've said with So actually getting into libertarianism, I was saying like, this is never going to work. And ANCAP as well, or an anarchist society. You need moral people. You need good, ethical, moral people. And the problem with that is even back in colonial times, there wasn't good, moral, ethical people. There never has been. There's never I don't know if there's a majority of good people, majority evil people. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know, but I try to surround myself with good, moral, ethical people. And any society or any government that's going to be run well, it needs to be done with ethical and moral people. And we don't have that anymore. So this system's not even working. So the argument that is, as far as like, well, we can't do libertarianism because, like people are like, it's just going to be chaos. Well, no, I mean, the system now doesn't work. So, I mean, I don't know if it could be any worse.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, we need to try this one. Well, why don't we try none of them?
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of them all. And then we can look at other things if that doesn't work. How about there? Like, it's a lot easier to just drop all these instead of creating new ones.
Oh, man.
And make them all go away.
Yeah. Chaos.
Yeah, I didn't. With that whole Steven Crowder thing, I didn't re-sign up for my Louder with Crowder. I've been
I just heard a clip on another podcast, so it was just it was just one after another. It was like, come on, man, like like they were breaking it down, and I don't want to give too much shit to Crowder because he does do some good stuff, but it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you know
Sometimes.
Owen used to work with him?
What's that?
Owen Benjamin used to work with him.
With Steven Crowder?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, well, they were both comedians, aren't they?
Crowder's a comedian?
Yeah, he used to be a stand-up comic.
I thought he was just a political commentator.
No, he used to be a stand-up comic.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's how he knows Rogan.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a stand-up comedian in Canada or some shit.
Oh, there you go. Those Deep Canucks.
Yeah. Fucking stand-up comedians get all the easy goddamn jobs these days now.
Yeah, right. Jeez. Oh god.
All right. I think that about wraps it up for episode 1. That was already an hour. Jesus Christ.
Oh man. I love talking about this stuff, and shitting on Fauci. So yeah.
Awesome. What do we got on next ones? Oh, one thing I did write down, like if there's funny shit or things I just want to circle back to, Jen Psaki style. We were talking about the different variants before the show.
Oh,
and, like Fauci was like spouting off, like you're listening to that video. He was like the BA02 and the BA07, and he's like, even I get confused with him. I was like, we just need a Ligma variant.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was trying to find where he was begging for more funding, but I couldn't find it. So
yeah, it's all good.
Good thing.
Now, folks, make sure you check us out. I am on Twitter at Bark and Cluck. And Dr. Chicken on there, and then you got Brandon at Dad's WW.
You know it. Dad's Worldwide. Come check it out. And then I'm also on Twitter with Your Politician Sucks. So
yes. And then if you want to see the video version of this, you can join us over on Locals. So that is audacityoffreedom.locals.com. And we have to do certain things like that video wise because I work for an evil empire. And the only way I'll show my face in this type of discussion ever again is behind a paywall. But it's only $2. So if you enjoy what you seen here and want some extra stuff and want to be able to chat with us, make sure you go check us out. Again, that's Audacity of Freedom at .locals.com. I'll get this fucking figured out one of these days. But yeah, what do we got on the docket for next episode? Any thoughts or ideas?
Ooh, I don't know. We could go. Who will build the roads?
Oh my God, yes, I love it. The roads.
Man, there's so much to go over. I mean, we'll definitely probably have another shitbag of the week. I'm sure.
Yeah, that might be a weekly thing.
I think it has to be. God, it's just so much fun to make fun of. And then, oh man, there's so much to. We can
have to make it like a sounder for the shit bag of the week too.
Yes,
maybe that should be the Trump. We love you. You're very special.
Yeah. And then I'd love to talk about being anti-war and talk about the United States war footing and how it's pretty much demolished everything we know and love.
Yeah. And yeah, there's that. I know there's some breaking Section 230 cases coming up too. Maybe not in the next episode because I don't know if it'll be all hashed out by then. But yeah, I'm watching that one closely right now. As Google's being sued, and they're looking at ways to go after YouTube and take down Section 230. So that could be good and bad all at the same time. So that's why I'm paying attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that would destroy every platform, like even small creators. Yeah, it was just like bye.
Yeah,
everything's gone.
Sued? No, I'm out.
Could you imagine just like Section 230's gone? They don't fucking fix it, and then all of a sudden, like every podcaster in the world just has like no platform anymore. They just shut it all down.
That would be pretty crazy.
That potentially could be what happens because if you can't protect the publisher, they're not going to publish.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just gonna remove everything. You're
Yeah.
just gonna have nothing but reruns. They'll have like a clause in there of like anything that posted before this date safe. So like all you can do is watch like old episodes of your favorite podcasts and never get anything new. But hey, then you'll get a chance to catch up because there's only like 6 million of them out there. So
There's a ridiculous amount.
yeah.
I know I miss a weekend and I'm like, shit, I can't catch up.
It is tough to catch up. Yeah. Damn. All right. Anything you want to say to the fellas, whoever the hell's listening?
He ain't listening. No, I just want to say thank you for listening, and please send us a message. I can't fucking talk tonight.
Emails in the show notes along with anything you want to
email.
us.
Let us know what you think, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate you. Love you. Oh no, I didn't get my cheers in. There.
Bye.
Bye.